can't be mad at the AP poll this week, all right? As I say, respect is building for the Big 12 with the matchup that's coming up on Saturday. AP voters helped out. AP voters helped out. They're not Big 12 haters. In fact, I have a lot of love for the AP poll this week. I have a lot of love for the AP poll, okay? BYU at 8, Texas Tech at 9. We start there, right? Both teams wind up in the top 10. That is huge. It is helpful. Now, did Miami and Georgia Tech play a role in like nudging the AP voters there to the point where, like, you know, journalistically speaking, it might have been completely disingenuous or disregard of the objective truth that they not put those teams in the top 10? Yes, perhaps that did help. Okay. But I will still give credit to the AP voters for doing the right thing and not doing something heinous like all of a sudden jumping Notre Dame above BYU and Tech into the top 10 just because that's sacred territory, even though Notre Dame farted around with Boston College on Saturday. No nonsense like that happened, okay? So thank you. Thank you, AP voters, for that. Thank you to NC State for beating Georgia Tech. NC State having one of the weirdest seasons this year. They have wins over Virginia and Georgia Tech, but they're like 5-4. Thank you to the Ponies, SMU, all right? As we've always said around here, we like and respect SMU. Never anything to the contrary here. Thank you for that win over Miami. I really can't complain about BYU and Tech at 8 and 9, right? Like, Ole Miss, Oregon, Georgia, they have high top-end wins that I don't think either of those two can match. Tech is a one-loss team in that group. If you want to say, well, BYU's unbeaten, they are, but I will give a little strength of schedule bump to those three when they have the high-end wins that they do have, that we have not seen out of BYU this year. I don't think we should be in the business of dying on that hill. Be happy they're in the top 10. Take the winner. See if they can still creep up toward the top 5 as the season goes along. Utah is up 7 spots. Utah is up 7 spots. In fact, I should be sharing this with you guys. I am sorry. What happened to my rankings? Here we go. Just to give you the visual here. But Utah just shot up the rankings, which definitely surprised me. I'm sure most of you, after seeing what has happened for a lot of this season, would be a bit surprised by that as well. So the AP poll, there you see BYU, but Utah is at number 17. So they go from 24 to 17. Maybe laying some groundwork for, can this turn into a slow trickle up the standings to get into at-large range? A 7-spot bump here helps. Now, I know, John, we're about to get the first college football playoff rankings coming up this week. This is the AP poll, not the playoff committee. I get it, but I do think they mirror each other. And whether they would want to admit it or not, there's probably some level of influence or at least just groupthink that happens in the college football world. So it is a positive. It is a positive to have that and to see that. Can Utah continue to creep up, especially as Utah, you look at their schedule. I guess this is good and bad. They don't really have like a big time win opportunity the rest of the year, but their schedule is at Baylor, K-State at home, at Kansas. Those are 3 really winnable games for Utah. So if you just win and let the karma or the carnage rather happen in front of you, that's how you start just creeping your way back up that poll and into, can we be there for an at-large bid while not making the Big 12 championship game, right? That'll be interesting to see. But I would have thought maybe more like a 4 or 5 spot bump for Utah as opposed to 7 there. You start looking at some of these teams in front of them. Louisville, I could definitely see dropping a game. I don't think they're infallible. Vandy still has a really tough schedule. In fact, I would be very surprised if Vandy does not drop another game. Georgia Tech, Haynes King's awesome, but everything atop the ACC is just very teams beating up on each other. More on that in a moment. Virginia's just been hanging on by a thread the last few weeks. Oklahoma's probably losing again. Texas has a crazy tough schedule. I think Texas still has Georgia and Texas A&M left. This is how that could happen. Okay. So appreciate the AP voters for doing that. Let's see. Cincy, even hanging on in the top 25. That's right. I need to scroll down just a bit for you. Cincy at number 25. They're still there. They did drop 8 spots. They got blown out, but I'm just pleasantly surprised to see them still hanging there with a 25 next to their name to be that 4th Big 12 team that is ranked. So, good stuff there from the old AP voters. It's a good look for the Big 12. I would point out to have a couple of top 10 teams here while the ACC has none. And I'm trying to steer away a little bit from the tribalism between ACC and Big 12 because I feel like a lot of that has just been thrust upon the Big 12 and the ACC by the powers that be in the SEC and Big 10 just from a mere survival standpoint. I'm going to defend the ACC a little bit later on here, but if you are thinking about your perception, it helps when you look up and it's like, well, hey, the Big 12's got 2 teams in the top 10. The ACC's got zip right now. Whereas early September, it was like the ACC had 3 teams in the top 15. All their big brands were up there. Clemson, Miami, Florida State. Miami and Florida State had huge wins to start the year. It was looking like it was going to go the total opposite route this year. It has not worked out that way. I would also just like to say, doesn't it make you sick to see Texas still there at 13? Texas there at 13, and it's not just because it's Texas. Like, I understand. Nice win for Texas on Saturday over Vandy. They played very well. But it's the fact that Kentucky and Mississippi State just had them dead to rights. I mean, completely dead to rights. Both of them, back-to-back weeks that would have just driven a stake through the heart of the playoff hopes for Texas. And now here the Longhorns sit. I doubt that they're going to beat both Texas A&M and Georgia, but they could pluck one of 2 and be a 3-loss Texas team that's going to be all the way in this playoff conversation. You know that would happen, and I'm just preparing you for that reality that is probably something that is going to come up here pretty soon. So watch out for that. And when we're talking about the Big 12 trying to be a multi-bid league, Texas is one that could become a real problem with that. And it would not be nearly as much of an issue had Mississippi State, held on to a 17-point fourth quarter lead, or Kentucky not been stopped at the goal line in overtime. Annoying, but it is what it is. Okay. So there's your AP poll for this week. Let's check in real quick with Kim. Kim, I appreciate you, my friend. Thank you for being here. Congratulations on your win on Saturday. Kim says, no comment, just a donation to you and your show. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. We're hearing from all the Tech fans tonight. Shout out to Kim and shout out to Starter 179. Starter 179 says, first Big 12 game on ABC since 2023. Yeah. How about that? First Big 12 game on ABC since 2023. I assume that had to be Red River, right? 2023 Red River would have to have been the last one. Let me know if I'm right on that, Starter 179. I don't want to discredit anyone if that's not correct, but that would be my guess. ABC is where the huge TV numbers have been happening, okay? There was debate about this across college football Twitter within the last few weeks where the people were comparing the ratings, and it was even used a bit to kind of degrade the Big Ten and say, look at how much better the SEC ratings have been. Well, really what it was just the games on ABC are dominating the ratings. The games on ABC are dominating the ratings. And so I do hate, like, I'm glad you brought this up, Starter 179, but I do hate that we're in a position where it's like we have to be sitting here talking about TV ratings like that's this huge thing, and we have to use that as real legitimate fodder. Like, if you love the sport, you should just love to go watch these games, whether or not the casuals do. Who cares? But this is an opportunity, yes, to draw a big number when, the TV numbers, people were taking some dunks on the Big 12 for what the TV numbers looked like that had come out at like the 2/3 mark of the season. So you do want to capitalize on that. I will be fascinated to see what that number is. Get the build-up going this week. And again, Disney and YouTube TV, figure it out. Figure it out. Because that is the one downside to it, Starter 179. If you're missing all the YouTube TV subs, that number won't look as good, and it will be annoying to have to deal with that. Nobody likes asterisks. Nobody remembers that. Okay, right, Tech fans? It's just like that Donnie Hart thing you guys all threw at me last week. Yeah, it sure looked like he was in bounds. Nobody remembers an asterisk. 30 years later when we're sitting here in 2025. So you don't want to have to do the asterisk thing with the TV number. Anyway, starter 179. Thank you. I appreciate you for being here.